everybody. Pop culture curator here. So good to see you all. It's Monday evening for me, and I'm excited. We're going to be covering at last. We've talked about this now all season of Lost in Space, but we're finally going to be covering the unaired pilot, No Place to Hide. And the reason why we saved it until the end of the first season is because they took this pilot when CBS accepted it. They when they greenlit the show, they said, "Yeah, we'll greenlight the show. We'll go ahead and make Lost in Space," but they rejected the pilot because they wanted to add the robot and Dr. Smith. And by doing that, they took the pilot and broke it up into the first 3, 4, 5 episodes, or whatever it was. And I didn't want to spoil those, so that's why I did not show the pilot first before the first few episodes. So we're going to cover the pilot tonight. And I hope everybody enjoys it. I hope you have a good time. If you do, please consider hitting the thumbs up button. I just realized I forgot to put the poll in the chat, which I'll do while we're talking, while we're blabbing and going on and on. And I'm gonna cover a little bit also, like I usually do, from the book. I'm reaching over and grabbing it now. Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman, M-A-R-C, Cushman, C-U-S-H-M-A-N. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. It's very thorough. It goes deep into the production, behind the scenes of cast interviews, Nielsen ratings, budgets, all that sort of thing, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's got more than I can cover on this stream, which is why I highly recommend it. And tonight I'm going to be talking about the pilot. Like I said, I know I've said pilot like 10 times already. But as far as the book is concerned, I'm going to cover like the salaries for the staff and things like that. But first, I wanted to say thank you for everybody in the chat. I know some of you guys have been waiting. I really, really do appreciate your patience and your diligence. And I know we're running a little late tonight, and I hope that's okay with everybody. But I think we'll have a good time and we'll make up for it. And I want to say first hello to my esteemed fellow panelists, Gorilla's Random Thoughts. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm all right. I've had kind of a long day.
Kind of a long day, huh?
Oh, yeah. I didn't get crap done at work today because they had me on the shaker and stuff. Then I had to run to Iowa, so I stopped at Arby's and I screwed up my own order.
How'd you do that?
I didn't tell them beef and cheddar, so they just gave me the roast beef, so I didn't get any Arby's sauce. I had to buy the cheddar separate.
Ooh, usually when you got to buy a slice of cheese, it's well over $1, probably almost $2, huh?
$1.19. Yeah, it's cheese sauce, not a cheese slice.
Oh, okay, gotcha. How are you doing, PBP? Pleasant Valley Picker, CA. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. One work day down, 3 more to go. That's kind of the way I look at it, I guess. It's
hey? Yeah, Thursday, Friday off?
Just Friday this week.
Just Friday.
I didn't work as much last week, so I got to work more this week, an extra 4 hours than usual. So I got 3 9-hour days ahead of me, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm done for the week again. Thank goodness. So yeah.
Right. So you count down how many days left of work. I count down how many days to my next chemo, which is next Monday, and I dread it. Believe me.
Yeah, I understand totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be okay since the chemo's on Monday. As you guys know, that it takes a couple of days for the steroids to wear off and for me to feel like crap. So I will be here for next Tuesday. Monday, Lost in Space. Tuesday, horror sci-fi stream. And Gilligan's Island might be a struggle because Wednesday's when the effects start. I can start feeling everything. But I need to get back into Gilligan's Island. We're getting close to the end of the. By the way, Gorilla's Random Thoughts and myself are hosting. For those of you out there who, if you're not in the know, Gorilla's Random Thoughts and myself hosts Gilligan's Island on Wednesdays. We're getting close to the end of the second season. And I've got to finish. I keep getting delays and I feel bad. And I apologize because I know we have people out there that look forward to that. But I promise you, we will get through it. We will continue. And I wanted to say, first of all, hello to, I know the first one in the chat was LDG. And LDG, it's so good to see you tonight. I hope you're doing well, sir. It's always good to have you here. Always a highlight of my night. And there it is. Hand pink waving. And it looks like, hello, Lemon Pie. So good to see you. Glad you could join us as well.
Hey, Pickles and Scurvy.
Pickles and Scurvy. What a combination. Lemon Pie says, hail, Pop. Hail, Lemon Pie. And Cody, guys, so good to see you as well.
Hey Cody.
Cody is applauding.
No, he's waving.
Waving. Thank you. That's a wave. Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome, Brad Wolf. It's so good to see you. Hello, Brad. I think this might be your first Lost in Space live stream. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, consider hitting the like button, maybe sub to my channel. We're going to show the pilot tonight and cover it. And then we're going to start fresh next week with season 2 in full living color. So if you like Lost in Space, you've come to the right place. And another one of my really, really very good friends is Nemesis of Eden. And Nemesis, it's so good to see you. Also, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling well. I hope work's going great for you. And he says, popping in to say hi. I hope you're all doing amazing tonight. And I'm going to make sure, too, I'm going to plug that link for Nemesis that I was telling him about. We were talking about that in the background.
Yeah.
After the last stream that he was on. Poor Nemesis. I don't mean poor like pity him, but Nemesis, every time you guys see him on here, and you know, not only does he come and visit on the chat and on the panels, but he helps me co-host my horror sci-fi stream on Tuesday. But all he has is a cell phone. He doesn't have a good computer, or even any computer actually, to get on here and do YouTube like most of us do. So I'm going to do my best. I created a fundraiser on Gibson Go. We're not asking for a lot, but we're going to try to see if we can scrape together enough money to get Nemesis a basic computer so he can get on here and do some YouTubing with us. Maybe if he wants to, make some content of his own. Maybe edit some videos, just some basic stuff. It won't be anything fancy like a powerful gaming computer or anything like that. I know that's really, really expensive, but I'm hoping we can round up enough just to get him a basic computer. And I did add that link to my Stream Elements bot if Stream Elements decides to work tonight. But I'm also going to highlight it and post it myself just to make sure. And so, yeah, Nemesis being a great guy. And it would be great if we can get together. I know what it's like when you need help. And this is a great community. And I'm willing to help him too, because a lot of you guys came and helped me when I needed it. LDG says, go time. Yes, we are finally going, everyone. Lemon Pie says Nemesis, and he's waving. Nemesis Eden says lemon, and I know, I'm not sure what the first one is, but I think the second one's a lemon and a cake.
Wait. Go back to, let's see. Nemesis is shooting Scurvy with a grapefruit.
Well, thank you, Nemesis. I do appreciate that. Lemon Pie says, got me, Nemesis. Yes, you're right. Good shot. Lemon Pie says, gorilla. And he's waving. Lemon Pie says, PvP, and he's waving. Nemesis Eden says, $1.19, not like gorilla was counting, LOL. Yeah, we're talking about that slice of tea.
Well, it's hard. It's hard not to count once it's the only thing on the receipt.
And Lemon Pie says, for $119, they battle you in that cheese sauce.
They
bathe you, sorry. I guess you're talking about like the little cup thing, right? Probably.
Yeah, that is a very small cup.
Should be free. There's no excuse for that. It's despicable. McDonald's are the first ones that started that crap, gouging people for sauce. And then everybody thought, well, if McDonald's gets away with it, why not us? So now everybody's doing it.
Yeah, that's the one that made the mistake. So I'm not holding it against them.
But I'm talking about sauce should be free. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not
it used to be.
Their ketchup and barbecue sauce and their Arby's sauce is all free, but cheese sauce is a whole separate thing that costs a lot more.
Huh.
Well, it doesn't cost a lot more. They tell you it costs them a lot more when it doesn't. We all know they buy stuff in bulk, and I'm sure it costs them less than 2 pennies. But they're going to tell you it costs them a lot. They're always going to say that. And PPP says, hi, Lemon. And Brad says, yep, first Lost in Space live stream. Looking forward to it. Well, Brad, it's so good to have you here. And I think you're going to have a great time. We have, in my opinion, the best panel in the whole wide world here. And I couldn't ask for anybody better. And while we're at it, and I have not forgotten you. I have noticed that my good, also wonderful friend, Antiderivative Jill popped in. And she's here.
Hello.
So good to see you, Jill. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Things are a little exciting over here. What with my children and all, they're doing stuff and things. But yeah, I'm having a good time. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to see they're keeping you on your toes.
There. Yes. See?
There we go. See?
Right on
Jill. Jill has her own built-in support group.
Yeah, I think Jill planned that one right there.
Yeah.
I think she had recording saying that.
Lemon Pie says, hi, Cody and Brad Wolf. And Brad Wolf says, hi, Lemon. And PPP says, hi, chat. And then Mr. Bean says, always good to see you, Pop. I'm doing well. Had a few days off. So that's nice. Yes, it is. I hope you got good rest. And I'm not going to say I hope you had a good Thanksgiving because I know you're in Canada. But I am glad to see that you're doing well. Brad says I can stay for a while, but then I got to clock in and start working. I may be able to catch the tail end if you go long enough. Sounds good, Brad. Or you can always try to catch us whenever you want. I think last week, the stream lasted for around 90 minutes. 90 minutes to a half hour. We've been keeping them kind of short lately. Nemesis Bean says, oh, thanks, Pop. It is my pleasure, Nemesis. And that I'm only returning the favor. You've done a lot for me. So I'm happy to do it. And hoping my voice holds out tonight, everybody. It might sound a little crackly. Lemon Pie says, put that link here. I'll copy it to my clipboard for the future. All right, bear with me, guys. I am going to do that now while we're talking about it. It'll only take me a moment. All right, everybody.
Just so you know, the slides are still processing, but I do know there's a bit of an introduction to the show, and you do like to talk about some pre-production things first. So that should work fine.
Yes, thank you. I am. I'm going to talk a little bit about the beginning of Lost in Space. I know some of it I brought up before we covered the first episode, so that may be a little redundant, but we're going to be covering this book has like 4 chapters before it even gets into the first pilot. So I've still got to skip a lot, which is another reason why I told everybody I need to recommend the book highly, especially if you're a Lost in Space fan. There's a lot in this book that I'm not able to cover on this stream. But
it's okay if it's a little redundant because so many scenes in this episode are redundant. I keep thinking I'm going to hear the cliffhanger song for so many of the scenes.
And you notice the music's different. And of course, it's different because they use stock music for the pilot, obviously. So we don't have the John Williams score and all that other good stuff.
The beginning score kind of sounds like is this the Twilight Zone thing?
Right. Kind of like, or a mixture of Forbidden Planet. Also, The Day the Earth Stood Still, I think is where they got a lot of the music. You can hear that theremin kicking in there. And I did put the link. Thank you, Lemon Pie. Everybody, I dropped that link. That's to the fundraiser for Nemesis. Please check it out if you're able to. It's well deserving. And Nemesis Eden says, definitely help out Suzanne first if you guys can. Yes, Suzanne's link. I think it's still in my Stream Elements bot where it pops up automatically. If it isn't, guys, let me know. But yes. But I do want to also help out Nemesis of Eden. He's a great guy and he's very deserving, like I said. And Nemesis also says, I have a crappy laptop. It's not really that good. But if you feel like helping out getting a better laptop, I greatly appreciate it. But definitely take care of yourselves first. Absolutely. And as you guys can see, he's very honest and transparent. So he's not a greedy person. So he's very deserving. Nemesis of Eden says, hello to Gorilla, PvP, and Jill. Hope you're all doing well.
Hello.
Hi, Nemesis.
Nemesis also says, as if on cue, LOL, Jill. Yes, right on time.
It worked perfectly.
Yes. Nemesis Eden says, you're a gentleman and a scholar of pop culture. Well, thank you, sir. Likewise, I return that. And Brad says, oh, yeah, I will check out the rerun later. Gotta have reruns. Absolutely, yes. And like I said, everybody, I will be dropping the poll in the chat. Usually we all get to where we start talking about this episode and sharing our ideas and our thoughts. And when we do, when somebody else starts talking, that'll give me a minute to get that poll popped up there and get that in the chat. When you see it, please feel free to vote if you'd like and let us know what you think about this stream or the episode, whichever you choose. And hello, Ola Greg, so good to see you again also as well. What a surprise.
Hey,
and Greg. He says hello, everyone.
Yeah, I can take over chat if you want to get the poll in there.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I'll do that right now. Appreciate it, Gorilla.
Yeah, and Nemesis here says, thanks, Pop. And Euler,
My
cheers,
pleasure.
says Curry. And welcome, Basil Baldragon goes, hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm late again. Yeah,
that's quite all right.
Oh, I know a few people who are always late. Some streams, we just start putting bets on how late they'll be.
Hello, Basil. I was late, too.
So, other Greg says, hey, Lemon. Hail, OG, says Nemesis. Basil Dragon there. Hello there. Or Basil, hello there, Scurvy. Other Greg says, hail, Basil. And he goes, all hail, other Greg, says Basil. And he says, hey, Nemesis, says other Greg. Basil says, another exciting Texas game yesterday. Nothing.
Cool.
Then other Greg says, cheers, Scurvy. All right. We're all caught up on our chat, and I got her started.
Thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And as of now, there, I just submitted the poll. The poll is in the chat, everybody. So please, if you get the opportunity, consider going in and vote. I don't know if you've got to refresh your screen to see the poll or not, but there it is. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to cover a little bit of the book like I promised. And that'll give Jill a chance to finish with those fantastic slides. Okay. What I want to start with is salary. Now remember, this will be the salary in 1965. To be specific, January 5th, 1965. This is a note handed down to Irwin Allen from CBS on how much the cast is going to be paid. Now remember, this is for the pilot, not for the series. But it does mention what to do if it goes into series. The deals with the cast were set one day before the pilot episode began filming. Cliff Gould of CBS wrote to Irwin Allen on January 5th, 1965. Here is the information you requested regarding deals on the actors for your pilot Lost in Space. Guy Williams, his salary for the pilot is to be $3,500 for 12 days service. When the series sells, he'll receive $2,000 per 7-day episode. He is guaranteed 13 out of 13 episodes produced. Mr. Williams' billing will be first position on a separate card. June Lockhart. She is to be paid $2,000 for 10 weeks on the pilot. So that's $3,500 for Guy Williams, $2,000 for June Lockhart. For 10 days work, so she gets 2 days less than Guy Williams on the pilot, pro rata of 1/10 thereafter. When the series sells, she will receive $1,500 per 7-day episode. She is guaranteed 13 out of 13 episodes produced. Miss Lockhart is to receive co-star billing in second position. Mark Goddard. For the pilot, he is to receive $1,750 for 12-day services. When the series sells, he will receive $1,250 per 7-day episode. He is guaranteed 13 out of 13 episodes produced. Mr. Goddard is to receive co-star billing in either third position or last position as a separate card. Marta Kristen. She will receive $1,500 for the pilot for 12-day services. When the series sells, she will receive $850 per 7-day episode. She is guaranteed 13 out of 13 episodes produced. Ms. Kristen is to receive co-star billing or also starring billing at our discretion. Billy Moomy, his salary for the pilot is to be $1,500 for 12-day services. When the series sells, he'll receive $1,000 per 6-day episode.
Oh, they already knew right away he was going to be a bigger character.
He had already starred in like Twilight Zone and other shows, so I think he was probably more well known.
Also, I did want to say hello to Miss Martin Muses in the chat.
Welcome, Miss Martin Muses. Do you want me to run those numbers through the inflation calculator?
Sure, if you'd like to. Let me know I'll give you the numbers.
Okay, well, the 2,000 there's the June Lockhart guy is basically $19,500. That 3,500 that guy Williams got is basically $34,260. What's that other number?
Mark Goddard, Major West, got $1,750.
Okay, that's $17,130.
Not bad. Judy Marta Christian got $1,500.
1,500. Then is 14,683 today.
Okay, same for Billy Moomy.
Yeah, so.
And it looks like Angela Cartwright is the least amount. Her salary was $1,250.
That's $12,236, and that $1,000 with Billy Moomy there is basically 9.7 thousand. Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
$782.
Thank you. So Angela Cartwright, her salary was $1,250 for 12 days. Sorry, I got to keep sipping my soda. It's partially frozen, so it's kind of like overflowing. Her salary is to be $1,250 for 12 days services for the pilot. Notice 12 days. Everybody's got 12 days scheduled here, except for June Lockhart. She's the only one that has 10 days. I just want to point that out. When the series sells, Angela will receive $850 per 7-day episode and is guaranteed 13 out of 13 episodes produced. Angela is to receive featured billing, the size and placement of which shall be in our discretion. The following morning, Alan assembled his cast and introduced them to his distinctive ways of calling for action. A hammer banging off a metal bucket, a pistol shot, and Lost in Space was launched. So here we are with No Place to Hide. Teleplay is by Shyman Winselberg and Irwin Allen. Story by Irwin Allen. Directed and produced by Irwin Allen. So this is the one episode we get that is directed by Irwin Allen, not just produced. It looks like there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 revisions on the script. And Shyman Winselberg was 39 at the time. He had written numerous short stories before moving to the West Coast to break into movies. And it looks like he's the one, Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, he's the one who's going to later go on to work for Star Trek. He's going to write 2 episodes. He's going to write Dagger of the Mind and the Galileo 7.
Also excellent episodes.
Yeah, right. Explains this episode a lot.
Okay, so, and of course there's several more pages. And Winselberg admitted that he knew very little about science fiction. He said, I was not a great reader of science fiction. I didn't see many science fiction movies. I had only 2 friends that were science fiction writers, Avram Davidson and Ward Moore. So I treated it pretty much like Little House on the Prairie. Cedar I said the name right. It was a tight family surrounded by a hostile environment. The emphasis was very much on making it a family story. I think the time slot that CBS had in mind had something to do with it. Well, I saw the designs that were brought along. What I didn't know how to do was give him dialogue in computer language, which was pretty new at the time. So I guess other people filled in that for me. Among the notes Irwin Allen sent to Winselberg. Page 3. I question the advisability of using milky fluid as a means of halting again process. Electricity might be better. So that tells us that originally, I guess when we see, it doesn't say exactly, but I think it's lightning. Halt the process. Interesting. Determination of Mars as unfit for human habitation is questionable. Mention of dates should be avoided in all scripts and series is to take place 15 or more years from now. If transmitter is knocked out, we are to assume the computer in the ship has been able to decide that Mars is a new landing site. Passengers are presumably still asleep. What is the reason for so shattering on impact on Mars? Earth observation scene should come much earlier, perhaps Act 1. Should open with Dr. Lessing receiving computer data as to meteor damage and charting the course to Mars as best available planet for rocket to land on. So that tells us that originally in the conception stages, they thought they were going to Mars. As this scene is now, it drops the whole play. I can't conceive of Dr. Lessing abandoning a chance. Okay, so Dr. Lessing appears to be the original name for Robinson. I can't conceive of Dr. Lessing abandoning a chance for investigation, even if it assumes. No, I'm sorry. I have to correct myself. Dr. Lessing.
Oh, this was the first story that didn't get. It's like the first draft.
Yes, it is, and Dr. Lessing apparently is one of the name. We'll see at the beginning of the pilot. There's a lot of. It's not NASA, but it's Mission Control, I believe. And there's a lot of people that are talking about it and preparing for the launch. And one of them is Dr. Lessing. I don't think they actually name him within the pilot. But it says here, Dr. Lessing abandoning a chance for investigation, even if it assumes the Robinsons are dead. So that, which we'll see in the pilot, is after in the pilot, by the way, it's Gemini 12, not Jupiter 2. And we'll see that after the Gemini 12 is knocked off course, Dr. Lessing is the character we see saying that the Gemini 12 is presumed lost in space.
Oh, and in the final pilot episode, it's the president reporting it.
Yes, that's right.
Or somebody from Alpha Control.
Well, it is. They interview the president, and it shows him up on the big screen talking about it, doing it the old pep talk. Similar like we had here during the Earth launches. Page 8, bloop must be described. Page 8, Don's image is not good throughout the whole. They really focus on that bloop from the very beginning, apparently.
Well, they call it the bloop from the beginning, too.
Yes, I think it's obviously
and
it's to
you know what I thought I really loved in this episode was that all the adults had a doctorate. Everybody had a PhD. So I always assumed that Maureen had one, but we just didn't talk about it. And so this one confirms my suspicions that was the intention the whole time. But the person I didn't expect to have a doctorate was Don. Because I just thought he was a pilot. Like he's like a military guy. He's the one who's a little bit more tough and rough. But he's got a doctorate too, and not only that, he's the guy who was doing radio control, and he inspired this entire mission. I think that is really cool for his character.
It is. It's too bad they dropped it for the series, but we can see why, because eventually it gets to the point where the women are relegated to making coffee, which is kind of sad.
Or doing laundry.
That's a good use of her PhD, and that's a good use of her PhD in biochemistry.
It was the 60s, though, you know.
So here's how apparently Don's image is not good throughout the whole script. Audience must like him. Plus, good father-son type of relationship should be established. There must be no choice as to whether they can stay in the ship for winter or go to the equator. They should not encounter destination. Winselberg addressed Alan's notes to his rewrite. His contract required a minimum of 2 drafts before Alan could take over and do rewriting. Winselberg didn't expect many of his original words to survive that process. He said, I think he just basically needed somebody to write what he considered the first draft. Although for me, with all the rewriting, it was the 5th or the 10th draft. And what he didn't realize was that if you know that you're going to be rewritten, it's very hard to put your best effort into the early drafts because you know you're just furnishing raw material. But he had, for me, I guess, to feel that he had written the script or that he was at least legally the author of it. And, if you like the money, you went along with it. As a prospective early evening program, the following are suggested to lessen the horror picture impact on young viewers. Page 3, scene 10 and following. Please display the freezing process causing a body's sudden immobility with perhaps a clouding of the freezing chambers rather than having the actors assume a gruesome frozen attitude, suggestive of staring-eyed death. Perhaps freezing all or most of the characters with closed eyes would decrease the horror process. So that's interesting. I know they thought about that much into the freezing, but I guess so. That makes sense. Eyes closed. Page 7, scene 24. The frozen bodies in the out-of-control spaceship should appear unknowing rather than impotent. Closed eyes would probably be the solution. There it is with the closed eyes again. So they want to make sure that the people in the freezing tubes are not affected by the out-of-control spaceship. I guess they don't want to show them panicking or their bodies thrashing about inside the freezing chambers. Page 14, scene 56 and following. The giant, with horror implicit, should not depart too far from the human if it is to suggest a humanoid vegetable. Judgment or accessibility of the giant cannot be made until it is seen in scenes with humans. Page 28, scene 113. The fade out should not occur as the child Penny is menaced by a huge hummingbird. Ooh. Suggests that Robinson appears to aim his laser gun at the animal to lessen the cliffhanging aspect of the fade out. The bird itself should not be too horrible. So that's interesting. They were supposed to have a giant hummingbird. Page 36, scene 149. Please delete 2 mentions of crescent wrench. Suggest number 5 adjustable wrench or number 5 socket wrench. Page 57, scene 230. Please use restraint in the level and duration of Judy's reverberating scream.
Oh, they went with solar wrench.
Solar, oh, that's right. Everything's either solar or cosmic in this show. Page 59, scene 246. And following. Restraint is suggested in the scene of the menacing giant. So, yeah, they definitely want to make sure it was not too scary. Page 61, scene 262. Restraint is suggested in the giant's screams. Okay. And I want to mention Paul Zizepnovich, the guy who designed the, as we'll see here in the pilot, the giant, plus many of the creatures later on in the series. He had been Alan's assistant since 1959, beginning with the movie The Big Circus. So he would serve in Lost in Space in the same capacity as he was doing on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. And that's his costume/monster designer. So that's kind of how he brought his project together. So a lot of the people, obviously, he had worked with previously. Oh, and at the time, Irwin Allen was already an Academy Award winner, which he won in 1955, which I think gave him a lot of leeway with the network. The earliest drawings for No Place to Hide in the 20th Century Fox archives dated December 9th, 1964. They were for the Enchanted Forest, where, among other sequences in the pilot film, Penny was seen riding a tortoise-like creature and then took a ride with her father and Debbie the chimp on the back of the rocket belt. Also dated December 9th with the preliminary drawings for the chariot. These were finalized on December 17th. Then the pressure was on to build the futuristic-looking vehicle in 2 weeks to be available for second unit location filming in late December, prior to the start of principal photography in early January. The full-scale chariot was constructed from the 1964 Thiokol Snow-Wheat Sprite. By the way, that's a snowmobile. It's a snow. For any of you that are not in the know, I'm trying to pronounce the name correct, but it's a Thiokol Snowcat.
So it's already all built.
Basically a plow. You're right. It's kind of like the Batmobile, the original Batmobile. Originally, it was a vehicle, and then it was modified. 20th Century Fox had acquired one or more for use in its film Caprice, starring Doris Day, which would be released in early '67, and also benefited from the services of art director Bill Kreber. The model of the Snowcat was 8 feet wide and utilized rubber wheels that ran on the inside of a revolving track of metal cleats. The cab was removed and replaced by a custom structure with a frame of 1-inch square steel tubing designed to withstand the weight of a full-grown man, since the character Major West would have to climb onto the roof of the vehicle. The frame was encased in clear acrylic sheeting. Besides a full-size chariot, 2 miniatures were constructed. The smallest was built at a 1-inch scale, with each equal to a foot. This version was planned for long-distance shots of the chariots caught in a whirlpool in the inland sea. The larger miniature was built at a scale of 2 1/2 inches to the foot. This was intended for the shot in which the chariot approaches and enters the water of the inland sea, as well as the scenes with the giant. Construction of these was given top priority. All right. And believe me, I can go on and on. This does literally go on and on and on. But I'll cut it here from now. But that's a nice little detail about the chariot that I didn't know previously. So that kind of gives us an idea about that.
And that was perfect because now the slides are ready.
Do we catch up on chat before we start our slides, though?
Great idea, Sir Gorilla. Thank you.
Yeah, Nemesis says a battle dragon is never late. It arrives precisely when it needs to.
That's right.
Yeah. Indeed, Basil says Oiler Greg. Or wait, Nemesis said that. Oiler Greg said, never disagree with a battle dragon. It's not healthy. And Oiler Greg says, nice background information, Pop.
Thank you.
And then Basil says, good point, Nemesis. Then, welcome, Miss Martin Muses.
Welcome, Miss Martin.
And Skillamiss. Now here's the Nemesis of Gifts and Go. And Basil Jenkins says, you're right, Oiler Greg. Dragons tend to be short-tempered. Hungry dragons are always angry. More spicy noodles. And Brad Wolf says, not bad pay for a few days' work. Right?
Oh, I agree. I would do it. Not only that, but it had to be fun. I mean, come on. Let's be realistic. Who wouldn't want a job like that? I mean, you'd be acting, and especially on a space show like Lost in Space, I would have done it for free.
They must have had a great time, I would imagine. It must have been a lot of fun, I would think, yeah.
Yeah. And PvP, I'm having trouble reading this one. Can you read it for me?
Okay. They also all received a case of eggnog. Oh, man.
This is, thank you. And see, this is why Nemesis will always survive the AI apocalypse, because he actually says thank you to them. When they're all coming after us, gunning us down, they'll like, leave that one. He always said thank you to us. And yeah, Basil says, just a thought, Chromebook will work well for YouTube. You can get one for under $300 at Walmart. I like you get a laptop for $200 too.
Yeah, I know you can, but I want him to be able to do some basic video editing as well. Because if anybody's ever been a YouTuber, that's one of the skills and abilities you have to be able to have, and you're going to need a tool to do it. Because like right now, for example, we were doing a live stream, and it's wonderful because it's simple. I just go live, and I end it when it's done. The editing, any kind of editing is minimal. But if I want to produce a video and then post it on my channel, I've got to have a video editor, and that's going to take a relatively good machine if you want to do any rendering or video editing. So I wanted to clarify that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Oiler Greg says, I'm ready for some strong nog. Yeah,
there you go.
Good idea, Oiler Greg. And Brad Willis says, okay, got to go. Catch you on a rerun. You have a good night there, Basil or Brad. I mean,
Yeah,
Basil
thanks for stopping by, Brad.
And Basil says, I use a Chromebook for YouTube often. Perfect for simple stuff. Not great for all around work, but good for streaming and surfing the web. You can buy an external DVD player to plug in to the USB.
Well, yeah, like what I do, I have a cheap HP, and it didn't come with hardly any memory of any sort. So the first thing I did is I had to go in and beef up the RAM. I think I put in 1 gigabyte of RAM, and I had to buy an external hard drive. So yeah, that's one way. If you have a laptop that's not quite up to par, that's one way of doing it. We were talking about that before when we created the fundraiser. You can either get a cheaper laptop, or I guess I should say a little more inexpensive, and then you can beef it up. If you're able to go in and replace the RAM and add an external hard drive, that works as well. Thank you. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. And Basil says, port to watch DVDs if desired, or the external speakers if you can find any that are compatible with the USB port. And he said, sweet idea, Basil, says Oiler Craig. And welcome, Daniel's Hot Topic.
Hail,
welcome.
Daniel. Good to see you, Daniel. Glad you could be here. I hope you have a good... Yeah, Daniel, it's good to be here, and thanks for being on my stream Saturday night. That was a long one.
Yeah. And welcome, DVB. I never have asked what the DVB stands for.
Well, maybe DVB can tell us.
Yeah. If you see a hummingbird in real life, it's a life telling you anything is possible. Now, welcome, Edge of Time.
Hello, Edge of Time. Good to see you.
Here, Jill, you want to read this one?
Yeah, their hearts beat a lot faster than ours. Edge of Time says, "Pardon me, is that Grey Poupon?"
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Okay. And DVB says, but of course, at the time. And DVB says, LOL. Battle says, unfortunately not. Or, oops, unfortunately not.
It's just regular mustard.
Says, Pops, you're so knowledgeable about film and filmmaking. Did you ever work in that industry or want to?
I wanted to. I took film study and filmmaking. Unfortunately, I am so old that it wasn't like now. So like when I took filmmaking, we did it with Super 8 film. And now every school has a filmmaking course and they all have their phones. So it's a lot easier to get through a filmmaking course now. But yeah, it was an outlier at the time. But I did take it because I was a fan of it. I took creative writing, film study, and filmmaking.
That explains why you know so much about it. That's so cool.
Oh, that would have been my choice when they ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. But, things don't happen the way you hope for all the time.
Yeah. And Basil says, yes, Pop has the knack for finding detail about these shows. And
I hope it makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And Basil says, true, Chromebook is too limited for stuff like video editing.
Yeah. It's a good laptop, but it's limited.
And Edge of Time says CapCut for Chrome is supposed to be a game changer for videoing editing. And
I didn't know that.
A lot of people saying hi to each other. Oh, here's our famous greetings from the Edge of Time.
Very cool.
DVB are my real life initials, nothing special. Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right, very cool.
And Joel Greg says, be careful, the edge is crumbling. Don't fall off into the endless abyss of time. Then Basil says, Basil says, people use iPhones to make full-length movies today, believe it or not.
Right, but just to be clear, everybody, current phones, I don't care if it's an iPhone or a Samsung, they still don't come close to a studio camera. They don't have what's called a focal length. So I know it looks good to the human eye, and a lot of young people think, well, I can just take a phone and go out and shoot a movie. But believe me, you could tell by looking at it that it's not a professional camera. And it's physically impossible for a phone to come up with a focal length like a camera because a phone is only, half inch thick. And in order to have focal length, you've got to have lenses that are further and further apart. And that's why when you see a movie camera, it's got that big lens on the front that's like 6 inches long at least. That gives you focal length. And if you're wondering, well, what is all the talk about focal length? Is it gives you higher detail of your subject, and plus you can zoom in far distances. That's one thing. Like you won't see good videos where people are zooming in from far away on a cell phone. It can't be done. There's no focal length. Sorry, go ahead.
All righty, and Edge of Time here says it's something I just have to live with out here on the edge. Then Elder Greg says spooky out there, Edge, and Basil says agree. All right, we're all caught up with chat.
Woohoo.
Beautiful.
And we got a lesson in cameras.
Thank you, Gorilla. And thank you, Jill, for the wonderful slides. I'm excited and I'm ready to get started.
Yes, and I really love those first 5 episodes, and it's cool seeing the pilot where some of those elements came from. Okay, so I do have a few more slides than normal.
Yes. Do you guys, now that you've seen the season 1 and now that you've seen the pilot, do you think it was a good idea to wait till the end to see the pilot, or do you guys think I should have showed that first?
I think it's good you're doing it tonight. I think it would have been a mistake to do it first, because then it would have lessened the impact of the first 5 episodes, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would have taken the thunder out of like a bunch of those cliffhangers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I felt like I was watching a clip show, to be honest.
Well, that's just because the way they constructed the episode made it seem like these are just. Remember those first few episodes you saw of the series?
When you think about it, the pacing of this episode is amazing. It actually moves along at a really great clip, because there's a lot of things happen in a short amount of time. By the time you get to the end, it's like, well, that was only 50 minutes. You'd think it was like an hour and a half movie, because they were able to cram a lot into it. I don't know, at least in my opinion.
Really? I thought it was going to be an hour and a half. I was ready for this to be a movie length, but it wasn't. And so I was surprised they crammed so much story into this.
Yes.
Oh, and I thought there was no reference to the robot at all, but there's one reference, even though they don't show the robot, obviously. The spaceship's electronic brain will take over for the balance. So, and in
I think that
the subsequent episode, the reluctant stowaway, the electronic brain turns out to be the robot.
Right, but I think what I could be wrong, but I think what they're talking about here is, of course, and I was talking about it when we first watched it, the first few episodes. It's that thing with the big old it's got the revolving like a saucer at the top. Remember that? And it's got a bubble. It's in the center of the bridge.
Yes, there it is.
It looks like a gyroscope. Yes, it's over to the right behind Professor Robinson.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about when they say the brain of the ship. Because when it gets knocked out of whack, it's when the ship goes out of control, I guess. Mm-hmm. I can't believe my brain comes to a blank when I usually remember the name of that device, but right now I can't. It's obviously fiction, so I've got to be able to get my Lost in Space lingo up and running again.
The New Mexico College. Just great. I just love the backstory for everybody. And the kiss.
The smooching,
you missed them kissing. Here they are kissing again.
Yeah, they're
actually, yes.
A fair bit of kissing in this pilot, here and there.
Right, and
people who are married love each other? Shocking.
Well, yeah, exactly. And they're not a dysfunctional family. Call me crazy, right?
Yeah. And can I just point out that Professor Robinson took extra time with Judy when he was doing that? Just saying.
I think, and you're right. And I think what they're implying at first here, which is kind of lost throughout the series, I think Judy might be his favorite of the children. It might be because she's the oldest. I don't know.
No, I was talking about the dark-haired gal.
Penny?
Yeah, Penny.
No, I didn't notice that. You could be right.
Well, the only person who's almost an adult who doesn't have a doctorate or anything is is Judy. She wants to be in music and comedy.
Right. And make copy.
Oh,
Sorry about the copy jokes. We're going to see a lot of those coming up. Nastro, I almost had the name. It's like Nastrogator or something Gator is what that device is called in the middle of the bridge there. Astrogator, I think. I'll come up with it later.
Or was it maybe Astro Navigator? Something like that?
That could be it. Yes, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And here we are with a few words from the president.
Oh man, I'm biting my
I thought it was odd. I thought it was odd that they show when the camera pans through the control room. Is first of all, it's a great budget because they brought a lot of this equipment together, which at the time was very expensive. But they showed it for any of you guys remember that are old enough. Overhead projectors, where they would put a transparency sheet over on a glass surface and project it up on a screen. And I thought it was odd. They had like 4 or 5 of those aiming and pointing at the same screen. So instead of changing transparencies, the overhead like our teachers used to do in the old days, here they had a different overhead projector for each one. People don't even know what overhead projectors are anymore. Those things are in landfills.
Oh, we had them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Gorilla and I were probably some of the last kids to have projectors in the classrooms.
Middle school,
the teacher,
elementary, middle school, we had them. Then we switched over to actual
Smart
projector on the screen.
I remember. I was a teacher when the transition took place, and the teachers they were head over heels in love with those new smart boards. They were happy to get rid of the overhead projectors, and that was also the end of blackboards. If anybody remembers those, everything became the smart board.
Well, I remember overhead projectors when I was at college, like in the late 80s. They still had they were still using stuff like that, like in the history classes and stuff, where they'd have to put a lot of images up, and sometimes they'd want to write something out, on the screen, so to speak. So they'd project it, So they were still using them, fairly late. I mean, well, I guess that's a long time ago now. But
during the late 90s is when early 2000s is when the transition took over.
Oh well, hell, I was in school in college in 2005, and I still had one professor who was still using a projector, but she was kind of old.
I was going to say that means they were probably a fan of the projector itself. I worked with teachers who refused to accept new technology, so I can understand that. Including computers. I remember one old lady. Oh, it was terrible. I wrote a grant for $1.2 million to deck out this whole school of computers, 6 computers in every classroom. And this is when computers were new, internet was new. I put 6 computers in her room. I'm not touching those, and I'm not going to let my students touch those either. I was like, oh my God. I felt sorry for the kids, but oh well. That's another story for another day. So here's where we have what we were talking about with the notes from the network, censors that is, saying they didn't want to show the family in distress freezing or with their eyes open. So during the entire time, they had to be not moving. It'd be completely immobile and not affected by the ship going out of control by being hit with balls of aluminum foil.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty creepy, though.
I thought they were asteroids.
If they'd had their eyes
excuse me, asteroids. Thank you. Sorry.
Hey, to catch up on chat real quick, we got quite a bit here.
Yeah. Thank you, Gorilla.
We're getting Jill with the thumbs up here from Boiler Grey. And Basil says, yet there are some iPhones and even Samsung that are capable of high quality filming.
Well, believe me, it looks good and it's in 4K. Yes, I agree. But I'm talking about focal length. That's why if you go into a movie studio, they're still going to have those big old 200-pound cameras that cost like $500,000. Those can't be replaced. I mean, I know phones have come a long way, but they still don't have that quality that a studio camera has. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Basil says, hi, Jill. DVB says, I wonder how large IMAX lenses are. Got to look that up after the show.
Well, did you hear Oppenheimer? The film was over a mile long because obviously Christopher Nolan is a film fanatic. He doesn't want to go digital. So Oppenheimer, however, I'm probably butchering the name, but the film was over a mile long, and it's not 35 millimeter film. It was bigger than 70 millimeter. It's huge. If anybody's ever been to an IMAX movie, some of them, as you walk into the lobby, they actually have the projector booth on display where you can see all the reels of film. You can get an idea how big they are. And the camera's even bigger. That's why they're very cumbersome. And they started out with originally only certain scenes. Like I remember The Dark Knight, only certain scenes that were filmed in high definition. In IMAX. And the rest was filmed with regular cameras. But then now we are years later in Oppenheimer. And we have Christopher Nolan filming the entire movies now in IMAX. And they do have to lug those cameras around. Sorry, go ahead.
Alrighty. So DVB... Oh, Basil says IMAX is a huge lenses that is very expensive to design. It's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah. I looked it up. IMAX is 70 millimeter film.
Yes.
All right. DVB says that's huge, especially compared to Super 8 or 16 millimeter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The bigger the lens, the more image you can take in. So that's why the bigger the lens, the better it looks. And I want you to pay attention to these scenes. I'll make this quick. We're going to see these again next week in color. The same scenes of the ship crashing. Go ahead.
Oh, it's going to crash again. Oh, right, because we're going to leave pre-planets.
Right. So to be specific, I can't remember if it's next episode, but it's the one where we're going to see when they do land on another planet, we're going to see these same scenes again because Irvin Allen knew to film the pilot in color originally. It was the network that decided to broadcast it in black and white. So they were able to reshoot these scenes, or reuse them in color later on, which we'll see in season 2.
That was really prescient of him.
It was. And I'm glad he did it. Well, he was upset because when he did Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea previously, he wanted to do the same thing for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and ABC would not let him. So he used that as an example to CBS. He said, look, they wouldn't let me do it, and it cost us a lot of money. We had to go back and reshoot a lot of that stuff. So because of that, CBS said, okay, go for it. Go for it.
So he was using his time a lot more wisely. And I really like this pilot because the crash, it doesn't require anybody to fly like a frozen burrito through the atmosphere. They crash in the spaceship. I think that's awesome, more realistic. And the other thing I noticed is we're in the year 2000 instead of the 90s.
Right, because they were supposedly left in 1999 according to the series that was greenlit.
Yeah, but the reluctant stowaway doesn't tell us that how many years have passed in the time that they were frozen in suspended animation. It kind of just feels like they weren't frozen for very long, just like a day or something.
Well, to be exact, it was 8 hours, remember? Dr. Smith programmed the robot at exactly launch plus 8 hours destroy.
Well, there you go. So 8 hours versus 3 years. That makes sense.
I just looked up.
Go ahead.
I just looked up season 2 just to see when they do actually land on a planet, and it looks like it's the 3rd episode of season 2 where they finally land somewhere. So that could be where they use that scene. Okay. Yeah, well, they take off, of course, on the first episode because they have to escape, pre-planets when it's, being destroyed. And then they fly, I think, in space in the 2nd episode without landing, it sounds like, from what I'm reading here. So it looks like the 3rd episode where they finally touch down on a planet.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. DVB said editing 8 millimeter film is not easy. You manually cut the film and tape it back together.
Which I have done. I have had sitting on the floor, all these pieces all around me, all cut and spliced, because a requirement in filmmaking is you have to shoot everything out of sequence. So because if you don't tell the student that, the student will shoot everything in sequence, and the instructor does not like that. So they tell you, they said, now we're going to check because what they will after. I'll make this quick.
What?
You have to shoot everything out of sequence, and then the instructor demands to see your film footage before anything is cut, and they want to make sure that everything was shot out of sequence.
Why? What's the problem with shooting things in order?
Well, because they want you to get accustomed.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right, because a lot of times, most times, it's not convenient to shoot things in sequence because, like, this prop's not ready, this background's not ready, this certain crew's not ready, this actor's not ready, this actor's not here today. So, that's why in most cases, a lot of things you see are not shot in sequence. And in fact, in many cases, the very end of the movie is shot first before anything else.
That's what happened in Lord of the Rings, and all of the actors had to figure out how to be sad about something that wasn't happening yet.
Exactly, for that reason. And that was probably because that was their opportunity to get all the actors on the stage at one point, or all on screen at one point. Because a lot of times it has to do with the actual schedule.
I can remember shooting Super 8 film too, actually, Pop. When I was in my teens, my cousin and I would make Super 8 films, and I would splice them. I remember splicing those together with the tape. It was quite the process, actually.
And you had to do it clean, otherwise you'd see a big jump as it goes through the projector. So you want to have a clean. That's where you get the term clean splice.
Mm.
Yeah, and DVB says literally cut the tape. That's how you had to edit without a computer. Then Basil gave some link to some Air and Space something collection.
Thank you, Basil.
And Basil says, DVB, I found some info that will give you some insight on the Max lenses.
And ostriches with feathers.
Right. This is where, if you guys remember when we watched the second episode, because the first one was the derelict, the second one is where they landed on Pre-Planet. And remember, there was a few references about other creatures, and it was kind of confusing. And I had to explain then. I said, well, when we get to the pilot, you'll see where there's more creatures.
Yeah.
And I guess it doesn't really look good because when you think about it, they are strangers on this planet. And the first thing they did was start gathering up and putting creatures in cages. And I guess that's not really now that would be frowned upon.
Yeah, DVB says
they don't have turkeys, ostriches. That makes sense. They make really big eggs.
That's true.
Yeah. And DVB says, "Oh, that's cool, Basil." And DVB says, "Dang, a mile long. That's insane and awesome at the same time." Basil says, "Yep."
Agreed.
And Jill.
Hello.
Hello, Taylor Swift.
Good. All right, we're all caught up.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Gorilla.
Jack-o'-lanterns.
So here's where we have Professor Robinson and Don. They have weather satellites that they have set up. Well, not satellites, but weather stations because they're on the ground. And now they're going and checking the stations because they're going to tell them how they can predict the weather on the planet because they don't have satellites, which makes sense. And as we do that, they discover a giant footprint, which is ominous. And that's something to be taken seriously, obviously. It's hard to describe what's going on here because we've seen it all. So no surprises, no spoilers, everybody. We see it in the second
everything's
episode.
going to freeze and there's a giant cyclops.
Yes. And we see it again in There Were Giants in the Earth. And here we go.
Yeah, we never get to see again.
No, they picked on the Robinsons one time and they figured that was enough and they left them alone.
Every monster, right? It's like every monster we see them one time. Well, like excluding the Cyclops, when the Keeper lands, it shows all the monsters escaping his ship. They kind of recycled a lot of the previous monsters that have been on earlier episodes. So, but normally, we see the monsters once, and then that's about it. It's not like recurring characters like the Klingons or the Romulans. And here we have, remember now, per notes from the studio or from the censors, we can't have the giant being too menacing. So basically, all it's doing is it's yelling or screaming, I guess, waving its arms.
That's where that was born. That's where we ended up with monsters who could only hug you.
Yes. And here we get these scenes are obviously the. I notice over to the right there, you could see the monster, or not the monster, but the creature in the cage, or the ostriches. So they obviously had to reshoot this here for that first episode because we did see this almost scene by scene where Maureen is doing laundry and it comes out prepackaged.
It makes sense for it to fold itself and everything, but the whole sealing it in plastic, that's a little too much.
Yeah,
especially if you're right.
I wish I
Especially
had
if
a way
you're
to do laundry like that. Oh, sorry, Pop.
right. Well, I was going to say, especially if you're being aware of the environment. Maybe they have a way of recycling. Yeah, I don't know. I know they don't mention it. And
that would
here's where
actually
they
make
know-
a lot of sense that they could recycle stuff on this ship.
It definitely does because they have a limited supply of everything. They even mention in that beginning sequence when they're getting the Gemini 12 ready for liftoff that they're loading it with liquid oxygen. So even the oxygen is a finite source.
And I'll complain about it. I complained about it last time. Same thing this time. My child runs off into danger. I'm probably going to run off after him.
Right. Instead, they just stand there in the ship and wring their hands like, oh no. But yes, Professor Robinson and Don are trapped inside the cave while the Cyclops is trying to scare them. I'll say scare, but I guess it's trying to grab them and pull them out. And Will Robinson runs to the rescue. Ginger, stop it. Sorry, I'm talking to my pooch. Get out of there.
We know he can feel pain. Yep, that's the extent of their communication with this Cyclops giant.
Maybe he's trying to say hello. You never know, huh? But the effects are pretty good. I like the effects. It's nice that they used a green screen and an actual hand. I want to point that out because there were a lot of low-budget movies from the 50s and 60s. I'll give you an example, like The Amazing Colossal Man and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And whenever they showed the giant hand interacting with actors, it was always a big stuffed paper mache hand. And it was a joke. It looked funny. I mean, it was obviously fake. So I'm glad they went through the effort of doing the blue screen process on this to give it a little more realistic. And I like that shot of the eye looking inside the entrance.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite shots. So I stayed here for a second.
Thank you. So Don and Professor Robinson have backed up far enough into the cave where the Cyclops cannot reach them. So the Cyclops, because of that, grabs a tree and tries again. And I think it's a good for the prop masters. It's a good match. That tree that the giant is holding does look similar to the one that they're shoving inside the cave. So I thought it was good for the props. And like I mentioned, Paul Zizepnovich, or Paul Z as they called him, was the guy who designed the suit, which was just what they call it, basically overalls and modified. Good shot, Will Robinson.
Yeah, right from the very start, Will's kind of that precocious adventurer, isn't he? Not afraid to take on a huge Cyclops.
It was funny in an interview with Billy Mooney. He said when he read that in the script, before he even accepted the role, when he was reading the script, and as soon as he saw where he gets to fire a laser gun, he said, "I'll take it." That was exciting at the time because he was obviously a nerd and he knew.
Oh yeah, it must have been
Nice.
great fun for a kid. Yeah.
I like what they did with Penny's character in this episode. I think you said it before, PvP, that what her IQ was, but now I finally got to hear it myself. That's 147, and that she seems to be a bit more mature than she's portrayed later on.
Wait, did you say her IQ was 47? Because
147.
I swear you said 47. I was going to say even Forrest Gump has a higher IQ than that.
147. Which is, of course, genius level.
Well, Penny always did seem to be pretty intelligent, I thought, in most episodes, even though she didn't get used a lot in sometimes, but
Well, it kind of fluctuated between having her be immature when they needed her to be and being mature whenever it was whenever she needed to be a foil to Will.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on the script, yeah. And the chariot, that's so cool.
I have a note here where they're driving. Or actually, I'll save it here because they're going to be showing a scene here coming up. So now they're suiting up. Obviously, they haven't made it as clear in the pilot here as they do the episode later on, but the weather's going to be shifting, so they know they've got to get out of that ship. They haven't got much time. And then they also, of course, at the same time, they notice Penny's not there. And they can't leave without her. So Professor Robinson says, don't worry, I'll go search for her. And now we get the reveal of the jetpack. Which all of us kids thought that we were going to get that when we grew up. For shame.
Everybody is issued a jetpack.
Yeah, that we don't get to see again.
Oh, we see it a couple of times, and then we don't see it again. We see it in the first 5 episodes, and that's it.
In case anybody's wondering, the filming of the crash of the Gemini 12 was at Red Rock Canyon. So if anybody so if you're wondering, oh, by the way, there's fan films out there on YouTube where fans have actually staked out these locations and filmed them, and they look exactly identical to the way they did then. And I highly recommend them.
Wow.
All right. Oh, TVP says, no offense, but saying that Taylor Swift is greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU is like saying flies are better than mosquitoes and scorpions. Now, know what I'm saying, LOL? Maybe that's the point. The DVB says, Pops, do you know why they changed from using blue screens to green screens, or do they still use blue screens sometimes?
Very rare they use blue, and because if anybody has seen an older movie that uses blue screen, there was always a noticeable line around the character that was superimposed into the shot. So when they used a blue screen, you could see like a little line around them, and it kind of stood out. The first movie to use blue screen was The Thief of Baghdad. And it looks good for the day. I mean, the blue screen is even great for back then. This is like 1940s. But green screen eventually replaced blue screen because they could help it blend in and look more realistic.
Yeah, I never really noticed the difference or anything, but I do remember you were surprised that the Orville season 3 used the blue screen for some things.
Yes, there were a couple times. And that means if you see that, it's one of two things, budget or time. They're rushed for time. And so I don't know which one it could have been or a combination of both. But I wanted to clarify. There we go. I wanted to clarify this for this scene here. On December 8th, Alan and 6 others took a Western airline flight from LA to Las Vegas, Nevada, where they spent the night at the Tropicana Hotel. The following morning, using a pair of Hertz rent-a-cars, all in the party except for Alan drove to Death Valley, then out to the Trona Pinnacles. Among the 6 to make the journey by car were director Sylvia Martin, Bill Kreber, and with a film camera for taking test shots, Gene Polito. Alan found a better way to get to the Trona Pinnacles. So they went all in rental cars, and Alan apparently arrived in a helicopter. He got out and came on over to where he had the camera set up and said, well, what do you think, Erwin? And he said, well, this is really fantastic. This is terrific. The decision was made to film the crash of the Gemini 12 at Red Rock Canyon, as well as sequences with doubles for Guy Williams and Mark Goddard wearing parkas with the hoods over their heads, scaling the side of a rocky formation. A double for Billy Mooney with back to the camera, firing a laser gun at the Cyclops giant, and footage of the rocket belt in use. The travels of the chariot would be filmed in the expansive valley with the Trona Pinnacles, as well as spectacular aerial footage taken from a helicopter. So if you're wondering where all these things were filmed, that's where. And it looks like they were able to shoot a lot of that in one day, which is fantastic. And here, of course, we see First I was kind of laughing at it. Even as a kid, I was laughing at this scene because the Cyclops throws 2 boulders and misses the chariot both times. But then now older, I realized, well, it did have only one eye, so no 3-dimensional perception. So maybe that's why maybe that's why it was a bad shot.
Well, plus also if he'd crushed the chariot and everybody in it, the series would have been over real quick.
Well, yeah, script wise, that would not have been good for the show.
Yeah.
But what we did miss here is one of the boulders did roll over and bump the side of the chariot, and that comes into play later because it damages their batteries, their solar batteries, I believe they call it.
Yeah.
And that's why solar energy sucks.
I'm almost surprised that they had the dead Cyclops so close, like a close up, because it was a bit gruesome, I would think. But I guess they got it past the censors.
Well, and they did, and they kept that footage for that episode, and there were giants in the earth,
right?
But it's also a way of milking it, and kind of it's milking that scene and kind of stretching out the filming time, I guess.
Right.
I think in a way, if I was to think about it, if I was to step back and say, why would they do that? Because I think it's a reminder, as far as for the story is concerned, that they are in a dangerous, hostile territory. And I think that's why they get that really good look at that Cyclops to tell them that not everything's going to be hunky-dory.
Makes sense, yeah.
And there they go with some of our lightning effects. So immediately we find out that they need to take cover because of this lightning storm. I can't remember, but they probably call it a cosmic storm. And so fortunately, just in time, they find a cave entrance to drive inside. So if you can imagine, that chariot originally had a big plow in the front of it. Because like I said, it was a snow plow. So they removed the plow, and then they removed the entire cab and modified the cab. At PvP, do you remember the car, the AMC Pacer?
Well, I don't know if I've ever actually seen one in real life. I do remember, seeing like magazine ads and stuff for them.
They were ugly and they were lemons. I'm going to dig up a picture here, and I'm going to share it with everybody.
Please do, because I kind of forget what they look. I knew they were pretty ugly, yeah.
Extremely ugly. They went through a lot of ugly designs there.
Yeah, what was the car that was notorious for exploding if it got hit
Pinto.
in a rear-end collision? Pinto?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that car.
Yeah, you just have to say notorious for explosions, and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, apparently they were pretty bad for that.
And here we get a reveal of a mummy.
This was one of the cliffhangers.
Yes, it was. It was a cliffhanger. That's what I'm saying, is they really took this pilot and they got the best out of it, that's for sure. And Will and Penny get locked up inside of a room.
Yeah, it's supposed to be stone, but you can hear the wood and all that in it. You can hear them tapping on wood.
I know, and it's a good thing they can hear through it for all that. Right, it's like 2 feet thick. That's what's interesting about this. When I was watching it, I kept saying, I kept expecting it to freeze and say, it should be a cliffhanger for next week. And I had to remind myself, nope, this is the pilot. It just plays out. And here they are, them cutting their way out, which we see later on again. Like I said, a lot of this is going to be redundant. Very little of this footage was not used. I would say they were kind of like the menagerie with Star Trek. They were able to use a lot of the footage. So it definitely saved money there.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that both Lost in Space and Star Trek reused their original pilots and actually, did a lot with them, right? Because all the episodes that they used the pilots, footage in, 5 here and the Menagerie part 2, two-parter, I should say. They were all really good episodes. Like they really used the footage well.
Yes, I agree. Also, this is some of the footage that we end up getting cut actually because here in the pilot they show a lot more of Professor Robinson's diary or ship's log, captain's log.
Yeah, exactly. I really love this diary, and I wish it was one of the things that we could keep seeing because I think it kept things focused.
It did. It kept things focused. And I guess eventually it's going to be where you're going to think, well, what's he going to keep writing about? They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to be saved. They're lost in space. So I don't know if it's something that they could have kept, but they do trim it down to a bare minimum there on those first few episodes. And I'm glad they kept, which we'll see later on here, the scene of them praying and giving thanks. I'm really happy they kept that.
Yeah, I missed the diary when they took it out of the series. I liked the diary. It was like the captain's log, right? You know, it did keep things focused.
It did, and I think in real life, if this was a real thing, and you had a crew on an alien planet, I think they would keep diaries and logs of everything that happens.
It makes sense. Yeah.
I wouldn't be on paper and pencil, obviously, with today's technology, but still.
True.
And of course, here's a lot of those exterior shots, like I was talking about in Trona, the Trona Pinnacles out by Las Vegas. I've been to Vegas, and I didn't even know that when I was younger. It's like, but you know, it's like, well, if I get better, I'm going to try to make it out there and see some of these things because they look absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I always thought the Hungry Sea footage was really, really cool.
Yes, which is what we're getting into now. So they're crossing over. Remember, they're trying to get to the other side of the equator or nearer the equator. And of course, now we're in the Hungry Sea, which will later become the Hungry Sea episode, which is like episode number 3 or 4, something like that, I think.
4, 5.
4 or 5.
4. Yeah.
Actually, I can just quickly look it up here.
Well, that's cool. They used a miniature though for when a river goes into a whirlpool.
I never knew that.
Me neither. And this episode itself wasn't publicly broadcast until 1993 on the Sci-Fi Channel.
The Sci-Fi Channel's pilot playhouse. I remember watching it. That's what they called it. And they showed nothing but pilots. And it was hosted by Mark Goddard and Marta Kristen on a mock-up of the Jupiter 2. I still remember watching it.
Yeah. No, but when he opened up that hatch there and they started bringing all this water into the thing, in all fairness, this thing should have sunk a long time ago, way before they got to that whirlpool.
Well, apparently it has beds so the water can drain out. And June Lockhart said in an interview, they had a blast film in the scene, and they had to keep stopping and tell them not to smile. They'd look like they're in peril.
I can imagine how it's more like a fun ride, because you're not really in danger.
Yes. Exactly.
By the way, Hungry Sea was episode 5, by the way.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Which makes sense. I mean, that does make sense because we're getting close to the end of this episode, and we don't see what inevitably becomes the conclusion to the Hungry Sea. So they pass from across the water to this side here. They make it. They're in a plush area, forest-like, and they're giving thanks. This is what I referred to. When we got to the Hungry Sea, they had a conclusion. If you guys remember, they had to cross back over the sea, and it was frozen.
Right.
So that's why we kind of ran out. And right here, we even got the scene here where they were giving thanks, but then it cut before the camera panned out. So now but in this case, the camera pans out to reveal these aliens, which we will see in the season 1. And apparently one of them on the left nods to the one on the right, like, yeah, that's them, all right. And we finally reach the conclusion of the pilot episode.
Yeah.
There it is. All right. Because if you guys remember, we do get these aliens later on. Aren't these the ones with no mouths, I think?
No, they had mouths on them.
They had mouths.
Okay.
The one with no mouth would kind of look like a werewolf.
Yeah. All right.
That's true. I mean, he had little hair things on his ears or something like that.
Let's catch up on your chat real quick. It's not.
Thank you, Gorilla.
DB says, was it the car from Wayne's World, a Pacer? I think it was, but I could be wrong.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Which was the joke because it was a crappy car, and Wade could afford all I could afford was a garbage car. So yes, thank you. Good memory.
Speaking of garbage, the ship was supposed to be way more damaged than it ended up being. And it was supposed to have a big, huge hole in the hull.
Ooh, interesting. Now that's something that I don't know if they would have been able to fix. So maybe that's the reason why they changed their minds.
Yeah. Basil says, Oiler Greg, beam me up, Scotty. Then DVB says, whose dog is trying to say hello? Hello, doggy. That's your dog, right, Pops?
Yeah, I think so. I'm hoping they're laying down and hopefully they're settled down. I took them potty just before the stream started, so that shouldn't be what they're asking for. And concerning the spaceship, the Robinson's flying saucer-like craft was called Gemini 12 in the unaired pilot. When the show went to series, the ship was renamed Jupiter 2 partly to avoid any confusion with NASA's actual Gemini space program. Gemini 12 was a single-deck flying saucer spacecraft. Now, this is originally a single-deck flying saucer spacecraft. There were no seats for the pilot, very few controls at the front of the craft, and no elevator. The crew of 6 rode out the journey in suspended animation freezing tubes. All 6 principals, Williams, Lockhart, Goddard, Kristen, Mummy, and Cartwright, were present, along with 4 ostriches, a chimp named Debbie, and the chariot. So even though I didn't know that, but even that whole lower level there was added for when they added the robot and Dr. Smith when the series went to air, which makes sense because, yeah, we didn't see that at all in the pilot. We didn't see the sleeping quarters or any of that. Because I guess originally they figured they would be in suspended animation the whole time and they wouldn't need sleeping quarters. Urban Allen's secretary, Lily Galinsky, said, I remember when we were shooting the pilot and it was early on, and there was a scene where Billy Mummy is supposed to be chasing this ostrich. Now, this ostrich was a big, mean, wild bird. And I said either to Billy Mummy or Billy Mummy or his mother, my God, I wouldn't get anywhere near that bird. The next thing you know, Irwin is screaming, what do you mean Billy refuses to do the scene with the bird? Who the hell was it who scared Billy Mummy? So I had to just stand there with this expression on my face of, who would do such a thing? Mummy concurred. The ostriches were awful, and they were just kicking and spitting at everybody. I hated them. Don't ever work with ostriches.
Oh, good to know. Probably also don't work with emus. I hear they're bad too.
I was just watching a YouTube video where his family stopped at a park, and the emu came up, and they had the passenger window rolled down, and the mother was saying to the little girl, oh, look how cute it's coming up the window. And it walked up and it stuck its head in and spit on both of them.
Oh, gross.
Yes. And it got in the mother's mouth.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to get too close to those.
And for anybody asking, that rocket pack was real. It was used in a James Bond movie. And it only had 20 seconds of air flight. It used compressed air. So if you were up there when 20 seconds, if I said that right. If you were up there when the 20 seconds ran out, you would be dead because it would be like having an engine strapped to the back of your back, engine strapped to your back that wasn't running.
So they'd had to film the flying scenes in very short bursts. Then I would assume, right? Like maybe 10 seconds and then land, kind of thing.
Yes.
Interesting.
And
I did not know that.
Yes, and like I mentioned previously, obviously when you see the jetpack, that's not Guy Williams; it's a stuntman.
That would make sense. Yeah. Well, I imagine it was somebody that actually knew how to fly the jetpack.
Exactly. They're not going to waste the time to, and due to insurance reasons, they're not going to put the actor in that thing and send him up in the air, right?
Yeah, you don't want to have your lead actor die in an air crash partway through the episode filming it. Oh boy, yeah, practical. That makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen really quick here. This is the AMC Pacer, and the reason why I have to bring it up is I think it's a hideous, ugly car, but it reminded me of the Chariot because it was surrounded by window. Oh, by the way, a very dangerous car, as you could see, because it was surrounded by, this is before they had airbags, surrounded by glass, and it was like being in an aquarium and on display. So everybody and anybody who was in the car driving down the road, you could see everything that was going on.
Really, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a piece of junk. AMC was really making a whole slew of, well, it's not, in my opinion, they haven't, but okay, I'll make this quick. They had a bad history because they were making a lot of horrible cars. They finally went bankrupt and they were bought out by Chrysler. So a lot of people are probably saying, what's AMC? Where's that? I've never heard of it. Well, because they're not around anymore.
Yeah, it's a terrible looking design. Like it looks like hardly any support for the roof. Like I would hate to be in a rollover in that thing because man, you'd probably get squashed
immediately.
Wow, terrible looking car.
Wow, there's like a it's like I'm going to the book here and I'm trying to figure out what to cover and what not to cover here for this stream because I know I want to try to cut it short. But there's like so many pictures of behind the scenes of this specific episode. I feel like, oh, shame. I should have had more of these compiled and ready to go. Billy Mooney said it in an interview. I think Urban was a good director. I think the pilot is arguably the best of what we ever did on that series. And Urban directed all that himself. And I think Urban was good in his profession, especially as a producer. But I also think he was a fine director as well. Although he only directed the pilot, it holds up well.
Apparently, there's a Blu-ray release of the new Lost in Space, the one from 2018, and they include a colorized version of this episode there. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Well, that's interesting. So you're talking about the new Netflix series includes a colorized version of the pilot, of this pilot.
It
does. Huh, that seems rather strange, actually, that they would do that. Include the old pilot.
Well, I know that colorized version that Jill's referring to is available on the high seas because I was able to obtain it.
Oh, really? Cool.
I obtained it, and I was watching it. I was able to obtain that and the black and white version. But I don't like colorization. It's got, in my opinion, long way to go. It doesn't look realistic. When it shows Billy Mooney, he looks all red. His hair, his skin, everything. Like they use one lens and one layer.
Huh.
And his teeth are red. Actually, he looks more orange.
Oh, wow. Orange teeth. That doesn't sound good.
Right. And there's videos
of candy.
Right. And there's videos on YouTube of things that have been colorized using a quick history. Ted Turner, who used to own TNT Network, TNN, TBS, all those networks, he's the one who started with the color process back in the day, where he took the first season of Bewitched and colorized it and it looked like crap. But now these days they use AI and it still does not look good. There's still a lot of mistakes. You can have a character, for example, let's say you have a wide shot and there's a bunch of people in the room and there's a character that walks from the left-hand side of the screen to the right-hand side. That color, the color of that character will change while it's walking because the AI is constantly thinking. And it's very noticeable to us, the human eye, and it's not realistic. And a lot of times, like I said with Billy Mooney, when they did the same thing when they colorized I Love Lucy, is the colors don't really match what they really were. And you'll see that a lot of things in the background are still black and white or gray. So not really good. Sorry to go off on a tangent there.
Very good.
But if any of you guys are out there,
I brought it up. I wanted to hear about it, and he told me.
No, it's interesting that you, describe, the process. I didn't know they were using AI. No, I guess that makes sense in a way, though. Seems like they're using AI and everything now.
It is, and it really does not look good, in my opinion. If you're somebody who doesn't care, then I'd say sure, it's serviceable, it'll do, but not for me. I don't know. I'm a perfectionist. It's got to look really good, and I don't want it to limit or degrade what the original was. Disrespect the original, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I know that
Sure.
as far as us on the panel, PvP and I are the only ones that are old enough to. We actually had this around when we were young. I'm reminding everybody in the chat. This is the first time that Jill and Gorilla's Random Thoughts have been able to watch this series.
Yeah, and now I've seen season 1, the whole thing. Woohoo! I did it.
Yeah, there you go. It actually kind of went by, I mean, it took us quite a few months to get through it all, but it actually seems like it kind of went by pretty quick now that, we're at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we ended on this because it was excellent. I believe that the first 5 episodes of Lost in Space are just wonderful. And so it was good to tie it back this way.
Yeah, it's like bookends, right?
Well, and then I think another reason that helps too is now that we've seen first season, we understand the characters and the actors, so we have more invested in it by watching the pilot. Because originally, if you watch the pilot first, you're like, "Who are these people?" But I'm glad that we watched the season first. That kind of puts it in perspective.
Yeah, I guess they never did. They never did show the pilot back in the 60s, did they? I don't remember seeing it anyway.
No, 1993.
Like Jill said.
Oh,
Yes,
1990s?
Right.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she's right.
Well, it's just like the Cage, right? We never got to see that one until, 80s or something? Late 80s, something like that?
90s, I think it was. I could be
was
wrong,
it?
but yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
89.
That's where
I can't remember, but
It was 89.
89? Okay.
And that was, I think, not long before Gene Roddenberry died.
That sounds about right. Yeah. It probably was around that time when he passed on.
Roddenberry died right around season 3 of TNG. Right when it started getting better.
Oh, you know what's funny? I was just going to ask that. Do you guys think that his disappearance affected the show in any way? Did it change?
Slightly, but I think it's just starting to get into getting into its groove.
I think it was just naturally finding its place, and I don't think it necessarily has to do with Gene stepping away, but definitely it was better for the creative team to be able to be independent and create TNG in the way that they have learned to accept Star Trek from the people that they know created it first, because of course they already learned all they could from Gene and some stuff from Dorothy and whoever else who stopped by to work on TNG. I think, did David Gerald work on TNG? I don't remember.
It's just one of those funny coincidences.
I'm not sure if David Gerald
I agree
on TNG, but that's a good question. That reminds me of a question. Did DC Fontana have anything to do with TNG?
Yeah, the very first the pilot episode, she co-wrote it with Gene Roddenberry.
Okay.
And David Gerald worked on an episode for TNG. It looks like Blood and Fire. Oh, it turned into a novel. It didn't even become a script. But he was around.
I wonder why. I wonder if they rejected it.
I don't know what it is, but I do think that the TNG, the writing crew and the production and everything, they wanted to make Star Trek for Star Trek fans, so they did listen to the people who came first, and so that was a good thing. But it was important for them to break away from TOS and do their own thing, because when they try to copy the scripts, you get and they try to copy the Naked Time and turn it to the Naked Now. It didn't work, and it doesn't work when you try to copy.
Come on, we found out data was functional in multiple techniques.
Yeah, okay, there's
Oh
that.
boy. Oh boy.
Well, I agree, and the reason why I asked that is because it seemed like I don't know about so much with TOS, but it seemed like with the TOS movies, the more they kind of forced Gene Roddenberry out, the better the movies got.
Oh, well,
And
the
that was
movies
why
are
by
a
the
whole
time they got-
completely different animal, man. The movies were all messed up. I think Star Trek works best as a TV show.
I don't know. The first
I know
six
I've
were
heard
pretty
people say that. That's what I was going to say. I've heard people say that. But I think the only reason why people are saying that is because TNG ruined Star Trek being a movie. Because before TNG started making movies, each individual Star Trek movie was an event back then. But once TNG took over with the movies at the box office, it was like, oh, it's just an extended episode.
I'll take Generations over Star Trek 5.
Yeah, I like the TOS movies a lot more than the Next Generations one for the most part.
Yeah, me too. I'll definitely agreed.
Yeah, I do like
Well,
the
like
one
I
though
said, the movies.
with the first launch of Warp Drive. I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Darn.
First Contact.
Yeah, First Contact. I kind of like that.
I remember the name.
It's kind of fun with the Borg.
I know this is going to sound pedantic. I just didn't like. And I'm saying this nicely. I did not like the guy who played Zephyr Cochrane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they ruined Jeff.
Yeah.
The whole what would you call it, the mythicism around him?
Yeah.
Yes.
They messed up what was established in Metamorphosis, but I still enjoy First Contact.
Well, he was like a different character, though. Really, you know.
Yeah, completely.
Well, they turned him into a drunk there. Then that one gal did all the work and got none of the credit.
Well, first of all, he's not even supposed to be from Earth.
Well, but also they established that he never would have made warp speed without Geordi and Riker. So that threw, as far as time travel, threw everything out of whack. Because he was supposed to be able to discover warp speed without those two idiots on the. Well, sorry.
Well, no, he still discovered it himself. He just needed help because the Borg destroyed his ship. So
okay. That's right. Yeah, that's right. They brought the Borg in. I forgot about that. Thank you.
Everything.
Yeah, I do definitely prefer the original Cochrane by far.
But the Phoenix looks cool. That was our very mini First Contact review.
Yeah, gosh.
Are you going to do the movies eventually, Jill?
Yeah, eventually. I'll get around to all the movies sooner or later on my Friday show.
I'm going to cover them on my Saturday show here, too.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of Alpha Centauri, that's where Zephyr Cochrane was supposed to be from.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're well into season 3 of TOS now, so you could be doing the movies in a few months.
I'm going to be doing For All Mankind after the original series.
Oh, okay.
So as we can see here, here's the original actor who played the Cyclops. And according to what it looked like it was filmed, he actually picked up Professor Robinson. As we can see by the miniature here. So that was definitely cut from the episode.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That didn't make it in.
No, sadly, that would have been exciting, but oh well, huh?
I imagine maybe the network censors didn't like that scene. I'm guessing.
It's a little scarier.
Yeah.
But I like it. I wish they would put that.
So that would have been nice, right?
Oh,
that's great.
That means that the Cyclops catches him while he's on his jetpack.
That's cool.
Yes.
I love the size of the prop hand there too. That's pretty cool. Wow.
And it looks good. That's what I was talking about earlier. Usually when they have giant hands, they look terrible. But that one actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's too bad they cut that scene. I would have liked to have seen it even as an outtake. It would have been fun to see.
And there's them having a ball shooting the Hungry Sea episode. So, yeah, as you can see here by the nice big smiles on their face. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about right there. And of course, that's obviously behind the scenes.
Mm.
There's actually way more pictures than that. But I wanted to, like I've said before, I'll try to keep this short. And besides, maybe it'll help sell the book. So, once again, I remind everybody, because now I'll be closing this chapter or this book for season 1. Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman, M-A-R-C. Check it out, everybody. What I covered while we were doing season 1 was maybe not even half of this book.
So it's impossible to talk about the entire chapter and any Mark Cushman production notes for any episode, or you'd be spending most of the time just reading from it. So there's a ton of great stuff that he provides.
Right. I would be reading 2 hours before we even got to the first slide. So yes, I have the new book here that I'm going to be ready here for season 2. I've acquired it and I'm ready to go. And I'm excited. Like we saw last week, we're not going to be moving ahead. We're now going to be moving ahead in full color, which for me that's great. That's wonderful. It's going to look nice, but I have no problems with black and white. I'm going to almost in a way miss the black and white episodes, but I know there are people out there that are screaming for the colors, so I can understand it.
Well, it will be fun to see the color episodes finally. After all these months.
I don't know.
And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting too, Pop, to see what Jill and Gorilla think of the season 2 episodes. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
I know. I think they're going to have a great time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Even though they are kind of different, but a little, in some ways. But it's still Lost in Space, of course.
Yes, and it will change. I guess I'll say flavor. It's going to look different. Because not only is it changing color, but it's entirely changing perspective of the way the show is written and shot. Because now it's going to go up head to head with Batman, so you're going to see a shift in tone for sure that I think will be very noticeable. And I don't mean that in a completely bad way, but you're going to notice a completely different tone shift.
How bad is it? Are they going to start throwing words in there?
No,
not that much.
Not that bad.
Not that much, right?
Okay, well there you go.
It just gets a little sillier in some episodes, but there's still some great ones too. So, don't despair. I mean, there are still a lot of good things in season 2.
Absolutely. And now that I'm going to be delving into this book next week, this is the one I'm talking about. So he wrote one for each season, and now I'm going to be cracking open season 2. And we'll be following along this episode by episode. I'm really excited because this is a new experience for me. And I'm sure it'll be just as... I need to cough just a moment.
Gee, that's not a bad price, actually. $27.95. Gosh, that's reasonable. I thought it would be more expensive than that. It doesn't look like there's a hardcover though, eh? Just a paperback.
I think it's just paperback, but I can tell you the book is like season 1 and season 2. The books are like 500 pages, so there's no disappointment there. You're definitely going to get your money's worth.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I wonder if that's the U.S. site though. I'm assuming, so I imagine it might be higher in Canada. I wouldn't be surprised.
Order from the U.S. Of course, then you'll be paying for the shipping.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I don't even know sometimes if you can order from the US because it seems to like to divert you to the Canadian site for some reason.
Oh, how nice. Well, taxes. Probably because of taxes.
I don't know.
Well, if you remember, originally Amazon used to have no taxes, and then everybody complained because now that they have to pay taxes in whatever state you order from.
Right.
So I'm
Oh,
in
yes.
Arizona, and if I buy something, I have to pay Arizona taxes.
It's just like eBay now. If I sell something on eBay, they add the state tax on.
Exactly.
If I sell into the U.S., so that
Greedy
puts the price
bastards.
up. Actually, I bet the book is available on eBay. Come to think of it, I might have better luck finding it there.
It's also available on Amazon used. If you want, that was the price of the new one.
I prefer to buy it new in a way, because you never know what you're getting when you buy something used, right? It could be, all beat up.
I agree. Okay, so how are we doing on chat there, Gorilla?
Like 8 of them here. It's
All right, let's do that, and then we'll cover our reviews. We'll talk about what we think.
All right, DVB says, you gotta love how Lost in Space special effects, story, makeup, they hold up even today.
I think so. I'm happy with it. I'm disappointed with the new Lost in Space series. I wish it would have stuck a little more close to the original. But I know there's fans out there of the new series, so I'm not going to knock it too much.
Yeah. And for some reason, Taylor Swift's putting a bunch of croissants in the chat.
Ooh, that sounds yummy.
That's a good question, though. I don't know. Now that I've seen season 1, I'm ready to go watch the 1998 movie. So I'm good. I'll make that assessment for you.
DVB says that.
Go ahead, Gorilla.
Oh, I was just reading the chat. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Gorilla. I'm sorry, not Gorilla. Jill, temper your expectations on the 1998 movie. So
yeah, don't get your
that going in
up too high.
I won't. I'm not going to compare it. It's obviously not going.
Akiva Goldsman.
Oh,
it's quite different. It's quite different.
Man,
it's Akiva. Akiva Goldsman. He makes Fred Freiberger look like a genius.
Absolutely.
Believe me, the whole world in unison was saying the same thing. Why when that movie came out, and also that's why Jonathan Harris and Billy Movie refused to do cameos in it.
Makes sense.
It's basically the same reason why Leonard Nimoy and the rest of them refused to do Generations. It was the same thing.
Wait, if Jill swears on someone else's stream, do I still buy a lottery ticket? I'm confused.
I didn't swear. I said F.
Yeah, I'm just trying to establish my gambling. I'm just trying to establish my gambling rules. This is throwing me off here. You're not on your stream.
And what I've understood, you've been having some good luck lately with that, right, Gorilla?
Every time Jill swears, literally every time she swears, I win.
Well, then you need to get her on one of your streams and tell her to just go off and just say everything you want and you'll swear like a sailor.
I think it has to be organic. I think I have to swear on my own without any provocation.
So.
Well,
I know,
provocate me. Someone starts talking about STD or something, Star Trek, and that set me off.
Yeah, but it comes naturally, right?
And before anybody tells me I have a gambling problem, this happens like once a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so
buying lottery tickets.
Okay, I know. I usually go clockwise. So if I may, if it's okay.
We still got some chats here.
Okay, thank you.
DVB says, "LOL." He says, "Pacers look cool, but yeah, not safe." DVB says, "Pacers are like Geo Metros, but with style." I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
Both of them are garbage.
Okay. Taylor Swift here says, "What's better, the Netflix Lost in Space or 1998 movie?"
I would say the Netflix. I hate to say that. It's like saying what's better, broccoli or liver, because I'm not a fan of either one of them. But yeah, the 1998 is definitely worse. I know you probably like broccoli, huh? I shouldn't have said that.
Ew. Well, I understand that some people don't, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe Brussels sprouts and liver.
There it is. Yeah, Brussels sprouts stinks up the whole house.
Yeah. Daniel said Salty does not like Star Trek First Contact. Oh, we all know that. Everybody knows that one. Taylor Swift says LOL. And he said Daniel says Star Trek Discovery burnt out so fast. They didn't even get a spark. What are you talking about?
I got halfway through the pilot and I fell asleep in the first episode.
Isn't it the movie Mirror? Wasn't it canceled already in like history?
Discovery.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
right.
they still have one more season next year, and then it'll be
Oh
finally
God,
over.
it's hard to believe.
Man, why do they keep
No,
cranking that stuff out?
I don't.
Wow.
Because they don't
It,
have to show the numbers anymore.
Yeah, they
They're
must
just
be
Yeah,
probably making stuff.
probably losing a
right,
Paramount
they can
lot of
Plus,
just
money.
make it up.
right? Paramount Plus needs content. They don't care what it is, just anything to fill time, I guess.
They can also count canceled memberships as memberships. So I don't know even
I'm
know
not
what they're
saying,
doing.
right? It's like dead votes. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Okay,
Yeah,
so
what was that?
go ahead.
We're all caught up.
What was that old Springsteen song? Something about 55 channels and nothing on. That was pretty prescient, that song, because it came true.
Yeah, now we have 155 and there's still nothing on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna go around, and like I said, I usually go clockwise if that's okay. Unless you guys want a different order, that's totally up to you.
No, I'm fine with that.
Jill, would you like to share us some final thoughts with us on what you thought of this episode and about your channel?
Well, I love the basic premise of Lost in Space, using the idea of finding an exoplanet as a means to save humanity. It's a pretty incredible to see all of these elements that were used in the first few episodes of the series get compiled into one pilot. The pilot, of course, was made first and then split apart to be used in all these cool episodes. And it was extremely well done and more than anyone could hope for a science fiction broadcast. And the bringing in the Dr. Smith and robot was just a added frosting that they put in later. This was just a great story of adventurers who find out, so in this very first episode, they find out they're not so alone, except for what is talking back isn't so friendly. I loved how the ship was taken down without requiring anyone to pass through the atmosphere in their foil suits, making them into
that's right.
the microwave
That's right.
burrito. So,
Like Gorilla's
so I didn't
famous
have to
burrito
worry about
suit.
that. Yes. So maybe the only issue I found really was, I mean, I found the foil asteroids charming, but the main issue I had was that they traveled at the speed of light for 3 years, but they don't suffer the effects of time dilation when the messages get back to Earth. But
Are they sending
that's
messages
it.
back to Earth?
Well, for whatever reason, Earth seems to know that they're lost. I don't really know
True.
exactly. I don't know exactly if
Well, they know some. They mentioned early in the pilot, at the very beginning of this pilot, where they said the monitoring station in Bermuda is down, and they had to wait. But they said, okay, then a few seconds later, they said the monitoring station Bermuda is back up again. So maybe it's similar to the NASA thing where we had monitoring stations all over the world, and that's how they monitor it getting knocked off course. Maybe. I don't know that they go into detail, so I'm trying to.
Well, that's probably the part I'm just interested in it, even if it's not actually explained. It doesn't have to be because this is Lost in Space, and I enjoyed it, and it was some good stuff. I give this an A+.
Very cool. And would you like to tell us about your channel?
Sure. My channel is Antiderivative Jill. I like to talk about science fiction and learn about anything you guys want to teach me, and also share what I've learned. And tomorrow we're gonna explore season 3 of the original series. We're on Is There in Truth No Beauty with the wonderful Diana Mulder. And
perfect.
So
wait, is that
that's gonna be fun.
Oh, never mind.
She's blind. Yeah, Medusa. Know that.
Oh, the Medusa one. Okay.
Yes, in my opinion, the underrated and much maligned Diana Mulder. I don't think she gets a fair shake from the fans. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. She's great. And she's a real Star Trek fan too, so she's cool.
Yes. And Jill, you also have your tea time on Fridays.
All right. On Friday, I'm going to talk about the Bicentennial Man from a request by one of my viewers from a while back. And so that'll be good.
All right. Very cool. thank you for being here, and
You're welcome.
once again. Yeah, thank you once again for the wonderful slides and spending time with us and giving us your opinion.
Well, you're welcome, and my show will be noon tomorrow Central Time.
Noon tomorrow Central Time. I will be there. I can't wait. In fact, I'm going to be watching it tonight right after this is over.
Me too.
All right, PvP, you're on the chopping block. What'd you think?
Okay. Well, I pretty much agree with everything Jill just said there. Pretty much solid episode from beginning to end. Definitely a whole lot of things packed into this one. So yeah, a good solid pilot for sure. I like how they reused a lot of the footage, probably most of the footage really in the first 5 episodes when they re-edited everything. I just have to say I'm going to give it an A+ as well because I think it is pretty much a solid pilot episode. I don't know if there's too much more I can add to it, really. I guess really that's kind of it. It is kind of strange, though, to see, an episode of the pilot without the robot and Smith. I think adding them to the show was probably a good idea because I kind of wonder how much mileage they could have got out of the stories after a while if they hadn't had like an adversarial relationship, with the family Smith provides. And of course, the robot is such great fun. And he's so interesting to see him, develop as a character as the season goes along. So, yeah, I think it's a really, really solid pilot. And I really guess there's not much else to add, actually. So, yeah, it was a good one. Definitely.
Thank you. And would you like to tell us about your channel?
Well, not much new to update. Just doing the music stuff as usual, and haven't done a great deal lately. Added a few things over the last few weekends, but not too much new to report there, really. Yeah, I'll just sort of play it by ear as I go along, and when I find something, come across something interesting, I definitely will add it because I never know exactly what I'm going to find on YouTube when I come on here and scroll through the music. Sometimes I'll find old albums that I haven't heard in decades, which is kind of fun because I'll listen to them and it's like, hey, that was really good. So yeah, that's about it, I guess, Bob. For now.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate your input.
Oh, it's always fun to be here. I wouldn't miss it. Definitely. Great fun.
Very cool. And as a reminder, everybody, I do have a poll in the chat. If you're so inclined, feel free to vote and let us know what you think about. You can be like I mentioned earlier, you can either vote on what you think about this episode specifically or how we handled the stream and our coverage of this episode. And I will be sharing that after Gorilla and myself share our thoughts. Next, are you ready, Gorilla?
Yeah. And apparently I got to be the oddball one out here.
Okay, well, go for it. That's okay. That's what we're here for.
Well, it's one of those, we've seen all these episodes before, so we waited till the end of season 1 to watch it. So I just felt like we're watching a clip show there, like, not a bad clip show like Shades of Grey, but it's just like seeing it. It was just like all action. None of those respites there where we get to learn the characters, a little bit about the characters and all that. I really hate to say it. I really missed not wanting to beat the crap out of Dr. Smith here this week. And we didn't even have the robot, it's like a lot of the stuff that they added into these episodes when they broke it out apart into 5 episodes, it made the show the episodes make a lot more sense in there, especially with the robot spot there. But then we don't get that context like we did in the episodes there. So I'm abstaining from voting just because I'm looking at this on the back, looking this through it will be a lot different with this. We will watch this first instead of waiting until the end of the season there.
Okay. Now, if we would have done that, it wouldn't have ruined watching the first 5 episodes. You wouldn't have felt that you saw all those before?
No, I don't know. I might have rated this a little bit differently.
I don't know. I think you do have a point with in terms of mentioning that we don't get as much character development in this episode. That's a very fair point.
Yeah.
And I agree with it too.
All right.
Yeah,
So I would
definitely.
I would say by breaking them up into the 5 episodes, they were able to flesh out the characters a lot more. Especially the relationship like between Professor Robinson and Will. And obviously, well, I guess I'll save this for my review. All right, Gorilla, tell us about your channel.
Oh, I'm down to 2 watch parties a week. There, Wednesdays is Justified. There we watch 2 episodes of Justified. So Fridays we review the Waltons, and we're doing the Awakening. There,
Cool.
It's I looked at the description. It's like, oh god. And then
Oh, does it sound like a bad one?
well, Grandma's getting old. She's celebrating her 68th birthday, you know, so age is catching up on her. Then
60, did you say 60?
68.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, then Mary Ellen's turning 14, and she's falling in love with the college boy, you know, the 14-year-old puppy love and all that other stuff. So it's like,
oh, it sounds like right up your alley. Sounds like a
what? So what about 14? What, a 14-year-old love story? That's all right up my alley. Is that what you're implying there, Bob?
Yeah, I don't know if Mary Ellen in love is too thrilling a concept, is it, Gorilla? Really, for an episode?
Yeah, and I'm not going to be doing my review on Saturday because, frankly, I'll just be too drunk to review anything.
Oh,
hey, cousin or my brother-in-law always has a fridge full of beer, so I got we got the family get together. So
there you go.
Plus, it'll be my birthday coming up, so
that's right.
And then
how about Sunday?
And Sunday, we are watching The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, thank you. And when he says that, he means it's a watch party. It's not going to be like a review like we did tonight with slides.
Yeah.
So yes, join him. It's wonderful. It's great. We had a blast. That was just yesterday. We watched Christmas Story Christmas, and that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, I highly recommend it. And thank you also, Gorilla, for helping me out tonight and doing the chat and sharing your thoughts with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And I'll be able to use the same sources last night, so.
Yeah, it was nice and smooth. It was a lot better than how it was before.
Yeah, it looked great last night, actually. On this end here, you know, on my computer, it looked wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, my review is like the general consensus. I give it an A+. I thought it was very, very creative. They really crammed a lot in this pilot. You could tell that Irwin Allen really wanted to make sure that CBS picked it up. There could have been a bunch of talking heads. That's the trade-off is, yes, we didn't get the characters fleshed out, but he wanted to make sure that they were excited and they were on the edge of their seats and they bought the pilot and didn't pass it up, which they did do, which is a good thing, which history has proven. And also, it was an exception to the rule here where the interference, you know, it's kind of like good and bad from when you get interference from the network and the censors. But in this case, the interference from the network insisting upon adding Dr. Smith and the robot, I think was a good thing. And that seemed to be what you guys agree with as well. I think most people do. And it's like PvP said, without Smith and the robot, I don't know how long this series would have lasted. I think we owe a lot to Jonathan Harris. And for him, it was a roller coaster because when he was first hired, like I said, it was a whim from the network. Excuse me. When he was first, I'm trying not to cough. I'm losing my voice. But he knew that his character wouldn't last past a few episodes where they killed him off. So a lot of what became Lost in Space and what we saw in the first season was him going in himself, personally rewriting the script and changing the character of himself and the robot, which made him a lot more endearing And we will see that coming up now. We have 2 more seasons to go, thank goodness. Which we're almost done with season 3 of TOS on Jill's channel. I'm going to miss it when we're done. But at least we do have 2 more seasons of Lost in Space here to look forward to, so that's good. And that doesn't mean do not tune into Jill's channel, because she's going to be covering many things, including For All Mankind. So I highly recommend her channel. Better than mine. She has a great turnout, a lot of people in the chat. And so yeah, A+, all across the board. Urban Owl, I think, was very creative. A little more bombastic than some of the other producers at the time. He liked explosions and spectacles. He was, at the time, in fact, I was reading in this book earlier before the stream, a lot of people were comparing him to P.T. Barnum because he was like a showman. And he was like the leader of the 3-ring circus, where he wanted acts going on all 3 at the same time to keep the audience's attention. And I thought that was a nice comparison because I'm a big fan of P.T. Barnum and I read his books. So yes, A+ all the way. If you're able to, please join us tomorrow for we're going to be covering the 1958 Hammer horror movie, the American title, The Horror of Dracula, starring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. It's going to be great. I've been trying to get into the Hammer movies for a while to introduce them to everybody. And that's a good way to start. So if you're able to, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Mountain Times, please join us. And Wednesday, Gorillas, Random Thoughts, and myself will be back as we're nearing season 2, the end of season 2 of Gilligan's Island. If you like the live-action cartoon that is Gilligan's Island, consider joining us for that. It's also fun, and we also have a blast. Because anybody who knows Gilligan's Island knows that it's crazy, and those castaways are always interesting to watch and always entertaining.
That's primarily comedy, so it makes sense.
It is. What's funny is that it is a comedy, obviously, a sitcom, obviously, but it stands different from a lot of sitcoms or comedies because Gilligan's Island is more like a cartoon. I guess it's sillier. It's not exactly like most sitcoms where they take place in the living room of a house, and every episode
you literally have the coconuts on your head.
Right. But yes, I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight. I really, really, really do appreciate that. And I know it's been over 2 hours that we've been on the air, and I thank you for sticking it out with us. And I know LDG, I have been thanking everybody as we've been going along, and I hope I did mention everyone. If I did not mention you, please let me know. If you would like me to plug your channel and include it in the chat in my stream element spot so that you get an advertisement every time we're on the air, please let me know, because if you support my channel, I'm more than willing to support yours. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the poll in the chat and share the results.
Oh, I always forget the poll.
I do too, Jill. Believe me, I've been known to forget many, many times, and I feel terrible for that. There we go. Pop out chat. So basically, we all do it. So I completely understand. Okay, so here we go. Bit of work. Can you see it?
I see it here on YouTube. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we have, and I've got to try to get my screen caught up to it. There we go. So thank you, everybody, for participating in the voting. It looks like we have 8 votes. What grade would you give No Place to Hide, which is obviously the pilot to Lost in Space? And it looks like A+ to A- gave it a 50%, B+ to B- a 37%, D+ to F- 12%, and 0 gave it a C+ to C-. All right, all across the board. I like that. Definitely a very interesting topic. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. If you enjoyed the stream, please consider hitting the like button. And if you have not already done so, please consider subbing to my channel, as well as Antiderivative Jill, PvP, also known as Pleasant Valley Picker CA, and Gorilla's Random Thoughts. All of us have some fascinating, interesting, and entertaining material on our channels. Quite the variety, I would say. Is there anything you guys would like to add on the panel before we close this?
No.
I'm just excited to get to season 2.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's.
Do we have a preview for season 2 for the first episode? Or
no, we do not. Sadly, to speak, not yet.
That's unfortunate.
I have to locate it because with the first season, I was able to. Those clips you guys saw, the previews. What it was is a fan put those together, and they put together one reel of the entire season, and I had to go in and cut each one out to show us each week. And I've got to find one of those for season 2. Is basically what that is. And if I can find it, I will show it on my stream tomorrow night, the horror stream, the Gilead stream, and my Saturday stream, because I do want to be prepared for next week. And I feel bad I don't have that already ready to go. So I apologize for not having our preview for next week.
Yeah, I looked to see if they had any previews of Lost in Space on YouTube here, but I couldn't find anything. It doesn't seem like that anybody's uploaded any of them. So,
well, I hope so, because it was always a fun thing to have those little previews like Jill does on hers.
Oh, I love the previews. So,
yeah, it's really entertaining, and it entices people to come back next week.
Well, yeah, that's true, but we're so excited. Color next week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Right, and I'm not as sure. I guess I'll let you guys know because I'll let you know now because you're gonna figure it out. Is they kind of drop the cliffhanger at some point? It may be next season, but the episodes are gonna start ending like traditional shows where it just ends, and then next week it picks up with another episode. I think they might have found it a little too stressing to try to film those recaps and the cliffhangers at the end of every episode's prior. But they are going to disappearing, and that's a sad thing because I really enjoyed them.
Okay. Yeah, me too. That's disappointing. Okay.
Yeah, gee, I don't remember that.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not sure exactly when. I don't remember if it's season 2 or 3, but yeah, they will eventually drop the cliffhangers.
Well, it's still going to be an adventure.
It still will be an adventure, and it'll be a surprise every week. Yes, thank you.
Oh yeah, it's still going to be fun.
So thank you everybody in the chat. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. It's great to have friends and everybody come together to spend time with each other. And thank you most of all for everybody on the panel here. Thank you, Jill, for once again the wonderful slides. Gorilla helping me with the chat, and PvP for your input. Couldn't have done it without you guys.
Yeah, PvP was really great tonight in terms of getting all the episodes straight that correlated to season 2 or season 1.
Oh, thank you, Jill.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you, PvP.
Oh, you're welcome, Pop. Yeah, I like to try and, contribute something because I didn't have a whole lot to say about the episode tonight because we've kind of already talked about it with the first 5 episodes. So it was kind of a little bit of, going through it again a second time. But I try to, add something when I can.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody on the panel. If you work tomorrow, please drive safe. Try to get a good night's sleep. Don't drive tired. I will see you all soon. Hopefully, I'll see you guys tomorrow on Jill's channel. Go ahead, Gorilla.
I said too late.
Too late. Too late. Gorilla, for you, it's almost 11. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. I know we went a little long tonight.
Tired. I'm always tired.
Well, it was the pilot episode. It deserved a little extra time.
Right. I agree, and it was worth it. Yes. Originally, I thought it was just going to be us saying, "Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that." But yeah, we really fleshed it out, and we added a lot of new detail that we didn't cover the first 5 episodes.
Well, I was biting my tongue for that. I was going to make a comment during the president scene, but I was like, no, I'll get people mad at me.
Okay, so thank you everybody in the chat. Thank you everybody on the panel. I will hopefully see you all tomorrow on Antiderivative Jill's channel at noon Central Time for her TOS coverage of In Truth There Is No Beauty. Did I say the name right?
Yes.
I hope I did.
Well, close enough.
Close enough.
Is there in truth? Is there in truth no beauty?
Yes, thank you. So maybe tomorrow, Antiderivative Jill's channel. Meet us all there, actually, and then hopefully tomorrow night here for the horror of Dracula at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Yep.
Night.
Good night, everybody.